Today we are honored to welcome Laura Ollinger to the show today. I'm very happy to have her on. She helps people kind of regulate their emotions, and especially in terms of parenting, right? And as we were talking about right beforehand, really cultivating healthy generations that really can handle themselves in a sense. It's really the foundation of our future. So her work is so important, and I'm very happy to have her on the show today. She's a podcaster. She talks about so many different things in terms of emotional regulation. And as you know, this show is all about bringing the tools of wellness and mindset to people to become the greatest version of themselves. Emotions are the foundation of that. And to navigate that in our lives can really transform the landscape and trajectory of where we're going. So, very happy to have her on. How are you?
Oh, great. I'm great. How are you doing? Thanks for
I'm
having me.
doing great. Yeah, definitely. I'm very interested to hear your story and how you got into the space of emotional regulation and helping people the way you are today.
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, lifelong story. But in general, I felt like as I was growing up that I had like a pretty like decent upbringing. Like my parents were around for the most part, and I felt kind of cared for the most part. And it's funny because it's not till, a lot of times you become an adult and then you're able to reflect back on like, oh, what could have been better? What was missing? What would I have needed? Or who could have helped me? And so that's why, kind of long story short, I'm actually also a teen and parent well-being coach, meaning I'm a life coach and a health coach kind of combined into one for teens and parents. And so typically my typical clients come to me with some type of stress or feeling of overwhelm or anxiety in their teenager. And so they say, can you help my teenager? And so I never just say, yes, I can do that. I also coach the parents as well, because the parents are their parents. And so they need to know like what tools and what they can do to change at home. It doesn't make sense for me to just coach the teenager and then have the parent kind of keep doing what they're doing and not making any shift. So it's like kind of everybody needs to shift together. Everybody's kind of learning and growing together. And so, yeah, kind of the very foundation. I do also have a course on my website. It's called Cracking the Parent Code. And the very first step of that is self-awareness. And the very second step is emotional regulation. And so, knowing that those are the very two steps of like kind of creating change within parents, but also just really everything I talk about applies to almost any relationship, right? So it's like having that awareness, like, why am I showing up this way? How, what got me to this point? Kind of like reflecting and then figuring out like really where you want to go from there. Because it doesn't make sense to kind of beat ourselves up and say, oh my gosh, I've been doing things wrong this whole time, or I've been a terrible parent or a terrible partner or whatever, right? It's just kind of having that awareness that we are just all doing the best we can with what we know and best we can at the time. And then also creating kind of a vision for what would we want going forward. So that's basically in a nutshell what coaching is figuring out where you are now and figuring out where you want to go. And then also I help people figuring out what gets in the way, like what are the obstacles that they're having trouble overcoming. And so I help break those down. And and so kind of like the true goal really for parents is to build that bridge, because I do specialize with teenagers. I'm not working with little itty bitty kids. It's kind of parents and teens are my niche. And so really the goal there is to bridge that connection into the relationship. And so I teach emotional regulation to both the parents and the teenagers.
I love it. That's an incredible story. Such like important work as well, as we mentioned. And a few things stuck out as you were talking. Like, it's really having the belief that we are the foundation, right? Like, it really starts with us and our own habits. So I mean, we can kind of cultivate that within our kids, because I'm sure like you would agree with this. Like, it's more so that they do what we do more so than what we say. Do you find that accurate at all?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I actually just gave a talk recently. I also am a professional speaker, so I give lots of talks. And I just was asked to give a talk about, it's called Growing Up Digital. And so I was just talking about digital well-being in families. And, every parent I hear gets so mad about their kids, and they're addicted to their device, and they're glued to their video games and their social media and all this stuff. But I say, hey, you need to look at yourself first. What are your habits? What are you demonstrating in your family? Because it's, just exactly as you said, like kids are going to model more what you're doing than just obey blindly what you're saying.
Yeah, for real, 100%. Like, You also mentioned like coaching and how it's really about like removing blocks for people, right? I think that's so important because a lot of coaches I notice they'll just say, "Here's the thing. This is what we're supposed to do," instead of like having this customized approach. They just give them like their thing in a sense, right? Do you notice that at all?
Yeah, a lot of coaches do have programs because that's kind of become their specialty and they've created their own kind of formula for success. But yeah, I customize for all my families because I really find that everybody's different and they all need, I mean, in my head, I have just like my general coaching frameworks. And so it's kind of like structure, but within the structure, there's a lot of flexibility. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, coaching, like it's such a transformative tool of like personal development for people, right? It's so important, and just being able to have someone to listen and guide you in a sense, because like as coaches, we obviously don't have all the answers, but it's like being the model and kind of guide them to their own answers as well. Do you find that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, I don't know your child better than you know your child. Like, you know them, you raise them, they're your child, right? Like, I don't know the answer for the parent. And same with the teenager. Like, I don't know what's going to make you feel good, or I don't know what's going to make you feel bad. I don't know. I'm not you, right? And so just the idea that I ask the questions, but it allows them to create their own answers because people are way more likely to follow through on something that they came up with and that they said out loud than if I just, because we can all sit back and give advice, like just be like, hey, go to bed on time, don't use too much, like tell them, but like, are they going to really do it? No. But if they realize like, oh, I only sleep 3 hours a night, I spend all night on video games and social media, right? Like when they say it, they're like, oh, like it kind of hits, they're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in terms of like emotional regulation, like such a big topic, like where do you start with that with people and how do you define that, first of all?
Yes, there are like the true kind of big step or big idea of emotional regulation. There's like 7 steps, and I know it's like too much. I don't like to like overcomplicate things. So the idea is just, I make it really simple. First, to identify the emotion that you're having. And even just like that's step 1. And a lot of people struggle even with step 1. A lot of people don't know what it is that they're feeling. And so I teach people to practice that and just the I feel statements. It's literally like saying, I feel this. And so it's either you can say it in your head or practice as a family. I started doing this when my kids were little. My kids are now, I have 4 teenagers. And it's great because now they've been doing this their whole life. So they're really great at it. And so sometimes it's like, you don't really know. You feel bad, but like, what kind of bad? There's so many types of bad. Is it angry? Is it sad? Is it despair? Is it hopelessness? Is it anxiety? Is it overwhelm, right? Like we could go on and on, hundreds of words to describe like something that's bad, right? As an emotion. Or same with positive emotions, so many different nuances. And so first kind of like recognizing like, what is this feeling that I'm having? And then does your reaction match that and in a kind of quote unquote like healthy and reasonable way? So let's just say I spill my coffee on something and I'm late for a meeting, right? Like the unhealthy way would be to start like cussing and throwing stuff and blah, 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 and freaking out, right? Like that would be an unhealthy and disproportionate response, right? A healthy kind of version and what we want to model in front of our kids is it's not to like be like, oh, it's okay, everything's fine, right? Like we're not covering up. Like we don't want to mask that because then it's teaching them to mask their emotions. We want to show like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. I just spilled my coffee. I'm going to be late, right? And like that is kind of in proportion and it's a healthy version to kind of just, I needed to say this out loud right now because it helps me kind of regulate myself and then get back into kind of problem solving mode, right? So we have this like a little bit of an emotional reaction, but we don't want it to last where when we're so kind of emotionally dysregulated, it's hard for us as humans to get back online and start to think rationally again. Okay, so step 1, clean this up real quick so nobody steps on the broken glass. Step 2, call my boss. I'm gonna be running late for the meeting, right? And so we can be rational about it. So those are kind of like the 3 steps, like first the awareness, then kind of like the reaction, and we want to bring ourselves back. So that would be like breathing, it would be talking through it, it would be somehow coming back into like a resourceful state. And then step 3 is to then come to that like rational, reasonable state where we can do the next thing.
I love it. So it sounds like awareness is the first step, really kind of like being aware of how we feel. Because a lot of people, we don't even really think about that. We're not really aware of how we feel in a given moment. Do I have that right?
Yeah. And so many, there's so many tools for that. You know, a lot of people do body scans, kind of checking in with the body, like where do you feel it? Is it tightness in your chest? Is your head spinning? Like, what is that feeling that you're having? And really kind of trying to kind of pinpoint it and describe it and then just articulate it. Like I talk about it like emotional fluency, where we're like fluent in the language of emotions and being able to say, right now I feel distracted, right? Like that would be like, oh, you know, instead of, right? Like there's just so many nuances of feelings, and we don't have to have it perfect, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh, I got the exact right feeling for it, you know, but like if we're close, like in the ballpark, and the ballpark is going to be good enough.
Yeah, I love it. And you had mentioned kind of like coming back to this state of resourcefulness as well, right? Because a lot of times when we get dysregulated, and you also mentioned like sometimes we bypass our emotions as well, like especially like because parents sometimes I feel like they're not able to handle it within themselves, so they just kind of do their best they can, but it's not really teaching healthy emotional regulation. Is that right?
Yes. When you said bypass, were you referring to kind of like covering up with the mask and, yeah, kind of not actually
Yeah.
processing it? Yeah, and maybe there's a time and the place for it. Maybe you're like gonna miss your flight to another country and you don't have time to process your feelings about the spilled coffee because you're gonna miss your flight, right? Yeah, maybe that's okay. And then once you get on the plane and you're like safely in your seat, you can then like be like, oh, wow, that was really stressful about the spilled coffee this morning, right? But in just kind of like a normal sense, in a normal way, yeah, we would be processing those real time. That would be kind of like the ideal way. But yeah, that's not always realistic.
Yeah, it's an important point because sometimes, as you mentioned, like we're not able to process it all in the moment. Just having that relationship with yourself, in a sense, know that it's okay, and you can process it later, in a sense. And you just gotta sometimes deal with that present moment. That's can be hard sometimes, but it's like sometimes you just gotta do what you can in the moment.
Yeah, and that also might apply to situations that you're in with others where someone is triggering you, right? Like it could be a boss, a partner, your child, really any situation. And you either it's not like culturally or socially appropriate to like kind of address it at the moment, or it's just not the time or the place, right? Like you don't want to get into an argument with your significant other at a Christmas party in front of all your friends, right? Like maybe you get triggered about something, you feel that, like I said, check in with your body, you feel some type of rage coming up because your spouse embarrassed you, let's say. So maybe you got kind of put that on pause, you get home, and some people like to process the same night. I'm a big fan of waiting till the next day. There's research that goes both ways on that, but I like to wait, and then like, okay, then let's talk it out after everybody's had a good night's sleep. We are kind of feeling really rational, feeling really calm in our bodies. And, I always think late night conversations are not very productive. So that's just me.
Yeah, sounds like it got personalized in a sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just know I personally just shut off. Like at like 8 or 9 o'clock, after that, I'm done, right? I don't want to get into some big conversation with anybody,
Yeah, and so you mentioned getting back to a state of resourcefulness. Can you explain what that is exactly and how potentially we can do that in our lives?
Yeah. So I love to describe it as, so you may have heard, it's a very common term these days, the polyvagal theory. And it's just really
Yeah.
simple to describe, where you've got the green and that's the bottom. We're calm, we're connected. We've got the two sides of our autonomic nervous system. And so there's the rest and digest. That's like when we're calm and we're connected. And then there's the activated side. That is when we go into fight, flight, or freeze. So say we're into the green, we're calm, something triggers us, we get activated, we go up into what they show as yellow. That's the anxiety, the worry. It's kind of energy, right? Say we have so much anxiety, so much stress, we're so triggered, we're so activated, then the top level is actually red. And that's where people shut down. That's kind of what we call is kind of described as feelings of depression or depression, where we just want to go lay down. Like we can't take it anymore. And so we have to shut down because we're overstimulated, we're overwhelmed, right? And so throughout any given day, people are moving in and out of the green to the yellow, back to the green, maybe even up to the red for a minute if they get really overwhelmed, back down. And so there's this, our body is constantly, with even every breath we take, with every drink of water we have, every food we eat, every person, every interaction we have, things are just constantly, your body is just a miracle with what it can do. And so just the idea of like that green, yellow, red is really helpful for people because then they can figure out, oh, wow, I'm feeling a little activated right now. I can feel my heart is racing, I'm sweating, whatever that might be. What do I need to do to get back down to the green right now so that I can connect and be resourceful and allow myself to then calm because, our brains kind of, there's those three parts of our brains, kind of like that reptilian brain where it's all about survival, right? Like all we want to do is survive, and that's the only reaction we're going to have, that safety. And then moving up to the kind of, I think it's like the next level is where, we have a higher level of cognition. And then that third level is where that's what makes us humans. The prefrontal cortex, we can problem solve. Like that's what makes us different from other species.
Yeah. I like the points you made there. Like you said, like body is a miracle in a sense. It's always working back to get back to this like state of homeostasis, right? Mm-hmm. And it's working so hard to do that. But we have like so many environmental distractions in a sense that makes it very difficult to do that.
Yeah, yeah. That's why really, you're not asking me this, but I'm just telling you, like, the best medicine, I think, for just like almost every human at this point is to just go outside. Go outside, take a walk, don't bring your devices, maybe listen to some music, maybe, but like just get some air, get some sunlight, take a walk, move your body. So many humans were just like literally glued to our devices. We're more sedentary than ever. I know there's a lot of physical activity out there, but yet we're still stressed. And so how do we like disconnect and get back to our natural rhythms? Because our bodies do have that circadian rhythm where we're naturally sleepy when it starts to get dark. We naturally get energy. And so it's like we're pounding coffee in the morning and like trying to chill out at night because we're forcing our bodies to do these things that like is a little bit out of our natural rhythm because we're just like cramming stuff into our lives that like just naturally we're not really physically designed to do.
Exactly. It kind of is like this emotional clutter in a sense.
Yes. Yeah. That clutter is, yeah, great word. Yeah. It's just like all in our face that we don't need all this stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like you mentioned being in nature, and it's so important. Like I do so many different things for my health. Like I do all the fancy things these days, like sauna, cold therapy, red light therapy. But I always say the number one thing I do is spend time in nature. Get in the grass, start earthing, start getting sunlight, fresh air is the number one thing I do. And it's very difficult to feel bad after that. It's very like, because what I've contemplated is that what you're really doing is giving your mind and the body the energy it needs to process as well. Because when we operate out of this low vibrational state, that just kind of like perpetuates this vicious circle instead of a virtuous circle, right? So get into that high energy state.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how you're saying that. Yes, that makes so much sense. Yeah, because, the other thing is, and I don't know if you've discussed this with other guests in the past or not, but, humans kind of develop kind of good addictions or bad addictions. And a lot of times when we're in that lower kind of, I think you called it vibrational state or lower energy state, it just becomes a cycle. So like you're doing that for a day, then you're doing it for a week, then you're doing it for a month, then you're doing it for a year. And after a while, that's just who you are, right?
Yeah.
Because you kind of are just like, that's your pattern. You're almost like addicted to feeling bad because that's like all you know. And so really breaking out of those patterns and breaking out of those cycles. Like when I do coaching, I always say like I can do a lot, but at the same time, it doesn't happen overnight. Like we're literally rewiring your brain, and that, is a process. It takes time.
Yeah, 100%. Like first we make our habits, and then our habits make us.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like when we're in this low energy state, it's so much easier to do the thing that is kind of gonna make us feel good in the short term, but maybe cause more harm in the long term, right? So do whatever it is, like alcohol, like drugs, whatever. And I find that like negativity just kind of doesn't want anything to do with you when you're in this high energy state.
Oh yeah, it doesn't want anything to do with it. Yeah. It's true. Like, yeah, it's like kind of like, oil and water. Like, yeah, they don't go together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like because when you're feeling good, you're more likely gonna want to do things that help you like bolster that state in a sense, like do like these positive habits. So
Yeah. That's why I think it's important also to, um, plan things so that way, because none of us are going to be in like a total high energy state all the time, but like being intentional about it and putting things in your calendar that are going to bring you into a high energy state. That way, afterwards you're going to be feeling great, and then you can either do the rest of your day or do the rest of your week, right? Like set all the healthy habits that I'm sure you've spoken about by setting time with friends. They say like being social and being connected is like one of the best medicines also. So setting those in your calendar, planning exercise, planning outdoor time. I know even for me, I love podcasting because like to me, this is connection, like talking about things that I'm excited about and learning from other people and hearing about kind of your take on it. Like this is something that now the rest of my day, I'll be very high energy because I'm like, oh, this kind of got me going for the day. I'm ready to go now.
yeah, I'm the same way. It's like I'm really glad you mentioned that there are because you said we're not going to be in a high energy state all the time because things happen, right? But it's
Yeah.
more so about being resilient and
Yeah.
understanding that we can actually come back to that state of regulation. And all these practices are kind of designed to help you do that faster and make it like happen less often. You find that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's what, especially when I'm talking to my teenage clients, I always, kind of use this little like roller coaster symbol that things are going to happen, right? Like maybe you'll make a bad grade, or maybe your boyfriend will break up with you, or maybe you won't get into the college you wanted to, right? Like things happen. But the idea is just that we can recover and that we can trust in ourselves that we'll be able to recover. We know we're not going to be stuck down here. And so the idea, like you said, is to kind of shorten the length of time that we feel down here, and shorten maybe even the severity, right? Because if we like reframe like how we even view the boyfriend breaking up with me or not getting into that college, if we view that as rejection and I'm not worthy and all these things, we're going to stay down there for a real long time. But if we view that as, oh, that person isn't meant for me, or I'm not meant to be at that college, right? Like if we view it, reframe the meaning of that difference, then we're not going to be as low as we were, would have been otherwise.
Yeah, self trust is key for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like I think about is if you have these positive habits throughout your day, like if you're maybe meditating, you're working out, you're journaling, you're doing all these things throughout the day, I find it's very difficult to stay down. Like if you have a failure throughout the day and you just keep on moving forward, like something's going to pick you up at some point.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of like what other examples I can kind of add to that, but yeah, in principle, yeah, I completely agree. It's like impossible if you've got these things, and that's why scheduling and like also having accountability. Like part of as a coach, my job is to hold my clients accountable. But you can also have an accountability buddy as a friend or your partner, or, right? Like, or even maybe your kid, and you guys are trying something new together. Then it's like things are always done better with company. And so, yeah, it's like if we all know that, oh, the whole family is going to meditate at this time of day, or we're all right. I'm not saying that people do that, but they could, right? They definitely could. Like that could be that, like, this is the time of day where the house is quiet and we're all going to spend 30 minutes in meditation, right? You could do that.
Yeah, I mean, group meditations are powerful. I haven't really done that, but like I feel like I think there's some data on that as well.
Definitely. Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
So we mentioned resilience a little bit. So how can we start to cultivate that within our lives? I know we talked about it a little bit, but like I think that's such an important skill because if you want to kind of make your dreams a reality in a sense and do all these things, like you're going to come up against challenges, right? And I feel like challenges are kind of designed to help us become the person we're meant to be in order to live the life that we're designed for. And that resilience is so key because like so many people give up, and it's kind of sad to see because I feel like we're meant for greatness at the end of the day. So how can we kind of cultivate that within ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like the mindset that you have because,
Thank you.
sometimes when I'm facing some challenges, I just have to say, bring it on, Right? Bring it
Yeah.
on because it's making me stronger, it's making me tougher, it's making me more resilient. So first of all, I think that would be like one thing is just like it's all about how the meaning that we give something. So we might view it as negative, or we might view it as just a little bump in the road, right? And so it's kind of I don't know if you or your listeners are familiar with Tony Robbins' work, but he talks
Yes.
about the triad, and so he has like focus, like what are you focused on? Like, are you focused on the one thing that went wrong that day, or are you focused on the 99 things that went well that day, right? And so many of us as humans were wired to kind of focus on the one thing that went wrong, or even like say in a speech or a presentation, like a lot of speakers will get off the stage and they're like, oh my gosh, I messed up that part, or I forgot this part. And that's all they do. They just beat themselves up instead of like, oh, well, I delivered this point effectively. Right? Like focus on what is helpful to you, and that means like focus on what went well. Then there's that language and meaning, like what does it mean that I messed up? Does it mean I'm a bad speaker? No, all it means is maybe I need to practice that part better more next time, right? That's could be like we can make the fun part is you can really make things mean whatever you want. Like we all think that like things are stuck as this stuck thing, but it's very fluid. And then the last part is that physiology, where that's the body and the movement part that we were talking about. So like building that resilience muscle is kind of any side of that triad, the focus, the language and the meaning, or the physiology. Those all have an effect on it.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, in terms of that emotional regulation piece, I find that when you cultivate resilience, like in terms of our habit formation, like that is so key as well because we just kind of came back to that in a sense. But having that high energy state really helps us deal with all the challenges and kind of cultivate that sense of resilience. So I think that's an important point as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think there's one other thing that I didn't bring up, but it's kind of coming up as far as we all need some type of rest. You know, there's the extroverts that maybe, you know, they get charged by being with people, recharged, and then introverts, you know, recharge at home. But we all still need like some level of rest. And so the more kind of, I'm not saying the more, not that it's directly proportional, like amount wise or quantity wise, but we can be so much more resilient if we are like well taken care of in our bodies. Think about, you know, one time when you were, you know, you didn't have anything to eat, you didn't have anything to drink, and then, you know, you run out of gas and you're just like, oh my gosh, right? Like it's very challenging for a human to have like really strong emotional regulation when your own kind of like basic needs aren't met. Whereas like, let's say you've been at a spa, you've had great sleep, great rest, all the stuff great. You're chilling, you're, you know, whatever. Oh my gosh, I ran out of gas. Oh, that's okay. I'll just call AAA. It'll be fine, right? Like it's totally different. And so it's
Exactly.
like, it's just like, yeah, it's like, just like kind of, you know, I teach this a lot to moms, like just the self-care, because moms are the ones that kind of let their gasoline tanks, like energy wise, physically run really low because they're constantly caring for others and their kids and their, you know, other people in their lives. And that's when you get a lot of moms yelling and you get all the moms, you know, like screaming at their kids because like, wow, they're exhausted. No wonder, you know, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, that self care is really key because when we're resourced from ourselves, we actually take care of ourselves. Like we show up the best versions of ourselves. So what people don't understand is that they don't necessarily want the average, rundown version of you. They want the best version of you, and we really need to prioritize that self care as well. And then we model that for people so they can take it on for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, I've been listening to Tony Robbins for a while, so that's kind of cool you mentioned that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. Like so many different tools of regulation and things like that. So if somebody is like really struggling and they kind of like they just feel stuck in life, like what would you kind of recommend in order to step out of that in a sense? Just it's always a process, but how do we start to kind of move out of that state?
That's a great question. So, yeah, when people feel stuck, generally it's some kind of form of burnout, I find. And the thing they like, the big key ingredient that is missing in that formula is what I refer to, and what I have a mentor who happens to be friends with Tony Robbins. His name's Joseph McClendon III, and he teaches just the neurobiology of the brain in what happens when you celebrate. And so when you celebrate, dopamine is released in your brain, and that's that feel-good chemical. And so it makes you more likely to want to do that thing again. So say somebody's just feeling really stuck, they're burnt out, they're drained, they're just like right in a really low state. they're not acknowledging the things they are doing. So, guess what? I got out of bed today. Yay, me. I showered today. Yay, me. I ate breakfast. Yay, me. Right? See how that like starts to build this momentum and it starts to like get you
Yeah.
out of the unstuck because you have to celebrate the things you have accomplished and then you're more likely to get unstuck.
Yeah. And back to like how you perceive challenge as well. It's like whether you're looking at it, this situation as a challenge or a threat, is going to definitely shift how you respond to it. Like, is this like threatening, or because then you're gonna probably operate out of fear. Well, if a challenge, oh, you're gonna operate out of courage, and then that's how you really actually make change in life and have growth in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's so the keynote talk that I give to teenagers is called The Decider. And the whole theme of it is fear and fear of rejection. And so I talk about deciding to believe in your own worth and just making that decision. And so it's all about like humans are naturally like wired to have that fear of rejection because it was our survival. Back in, days when we were in tribes, if you got cast out of a tribe, you couldn't survive because you didn't have enough food or shelter or all the resources that they operated, in community. And so that's why we're biologically fearful of rejection. And teenagers' brains are actually extra sensitive to that. And so that's why opinions of others matter so much. And so in my talk I talk about like building that muscle of just becoming the decider and kind of like recognizing, oh, that's fear. That's the fear of rejection. Okay, I'm going to decide to step out of fear. I'm going to step into my belief of my power and my self-worth.
I love that. Yeah, you definitely have to decide, right? Make that powerful statement within yourself. Have this internal conviction, right? I feel
Yeah.
like kind of goes with knowing your values and your standards and all that, because I feel like we make our decisions through filtering it through that. So really getting to know yourself is so important.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Definitely. Like while we're on the decisions, like how do we start to make effective decisions within our lives? Because I feel like we're the sum total of decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis. And the more skilled we can be at that, man, we can just kind of change our entire trajectory in a sense.
Yeah, I kind of think you said it like knowing what your values are makes decision making so much easier because it's kind of like, well, it's already almost not even up for debate if it's, one of these things, well, that's against my values, so
Yeah.
no, right? So that's kind of, I think, like that with that first thing of like getting really clear on your beliefs and your values and what matters to you. And then if it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, it's still a choice because both of these options are within my values, right? Like, how do you then make that decision? And I think that comes, one of the challenges with being a mom or being a parent is there's all these nuances of is this negotiable or is this non negotiable, right? Like, so my teenager is doing this. It technically is within my rules, but at the same time, it's a little iffy. And so moms do kind of drain themselves like, what do I do here? How do I deal with it? How do I handle it? Is this a matter of discipline? Is this a matter of what is this? Right? And so, yeah, we can kind of go a little crazy, like making all these decisions all day long. And so I think, again, it just like comes back to clarity and like understanding and like, did you communicate this ahead of time to your teenager so that they knew what the value of the family was, right? And so it's kind of like values, communication, and sometimes it's just a judgment call, right? Like it's like so close. I'm like, does it matter? Maybe it's not that important, right? And that's the other part is like looking at like in the long term, is this a big deal? Does my child need to learn from this lesson? Or is this just like a tiny little blip and we'll forget about it tomorrow?
Yeah. I mean, that's the power of identity, right? Because it's like there's things that you know that you do, things that you don't do, right? And you have this clear, definitive way of how you make decisions, right? So really kind of like, and we kind of want to make decisions in a way that reinforces our identity, right? So having that sense of self is so important, and really kind of standing for what is real and just being able to navigate that so you can kind of defend against all the negativity in a sense.
Yeah, and I loved it that you use that word identity because sometimes that's so helpful. And I teach people to ask themselves this question like, who do I need to be right now in order to deal with this moment?
Yeah.
And sometimes that answer then helps them, because right now, okay, I'm dealing with this. At this moment, I need to be strong. I need to be confident. I need to be brave. I need to be this. I need to be that. And then it's kind of, again, back to the decider, like, I'm just deciding this is who I'm going to be. So that way I can rise to this challenge, or I can deal with this challenge because I'm this person.
Yeah. There's another saying, like, we don't rise to the occasion, we follow the level of training, right? But at the same time, I do feel like we can, but, it's more about staying ready, so you have to get ready, right? So kind of
Yeah.
having all these practices in your life. So when these challenges come, you're actually ready. You're not just like completely like thrown off guard.
I like that. I like that. And yeah, and so sometimes when I have talked about that, I think that what you just said is great, because when I give like live presentations, or I speak with big groups of parents, and I'll have the mom, a mom, inevitably, like this has happened so many times, where they'll say, okay, well, everything you just said was great. It makes so much sense. We love it. It's great. But there's like a but. I don't like the word but. I like to say and in
Yeah.
real life, I don't know how to do this, because like the mom will say, I'm so exhausted with my job, and then I come home from work and none of my kids have done what they're supposed to do. They haven't done their homework. Nobody's started dinner. Like and so they find themselves getting so emotionally like dysregulated. They walk in and they start yelling at everybody, and it's a disaster. And so kind of like what you said is just like that. What was the expression? Like stay ready to get ready, or what
Yeah,
was it?
stay ready, so you have to get ready.
Yes. And so what I taught them was to just, okay, whatever it takes, 5 minutes in your car. That's where you're going to breathe. That's where you're going to emotionally regulate. That's where you're going to just take a moment for yourself. So you then can, and that's where I taught them also to decide, like, right now, I need to be a confident leader as a mom, and I'm going to walk in this house. And not confident in like bossy, I don't mean like, but like warm, loving, confident mother, kind of
Right.
nurturing energy. But if they've practiced that before, then it comes like really easy. We don't need an hour in our car to decompress from the day, so then I can challenge or rise to the challenge of being a mom. It's like, well, I'm already this person. I just need to reconnect with that. And sometimes it just takes a minute or two.
Yeah, 100%. Like having that confidence is so important, because it actually helps you deal with the situation as well. Like the more confident you are, and like having all this chaos around you, in a sense, you can kind of still have that center and peace within yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so important. Such good points there. Like, so if people are kind of perhaps dealing with kids that are maybe not super emotional regulated, and maybe they're just kind of like getting in trouble and all these types of things. Of course, we mentioned being the model, but do you want to
Mm-hmm.
speak to them at all? Like, what can we actually do to kind of cultivate healthy habits in a sense?
Yeah, and I would love for there to be just some like, oh, do this, this, and this, and you're good, right? Like, there's never that answer. Like, it's more of a messy answer, and it's all just like small bits, small practices every day. And so, kind of the modeling and both how you're regulating yourself, but also modeling with the language that I'm using. So I'm modeling that I'm feeling stressed out right now. I'm modeling that this messy house makes me feel overwhelmed. And so then the more they hear it, then eventually like these things, they do seep in, right? Like they do kind of suck that in. But that's kind of like one part of it. But then again, kind of how we talked, I'm a big fan of walks, like just walking. Like, let's go out for a family walk. Like, let's go walk the dog. Let's go do a hike, or let's do something together that will bring us some sense of just connection, calm, regulation, where it's not that fight or flight. We're not fighting about things, right? It's just some type of peace. Like, and the way I also like to think of it, because we're coming up to Thanksgiving, is a lot of families do so well over the holidays, because that's when everybody's chilling. Maybe they're having movie nights, maybe they're doing game nights, maybe they're doing fun activities together, or they're going on a ski vacation, things like that. And then what happens is then they get back to school, they get back into the routine, and that's when things kind of get all crazy again. And so kind of just like remembering like, oh, what are those little micro moments that we could add into a regular school day that might be like a piece of what we did on our vacation. Like, it could be a piece. So yeah, it's kind of just like all these little bits and pieces that you can just like pull into your day.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, I think it's like taking advantage of the moment, in a sense, like being present, so we can actually experience life, right? Because we're so kind of disconnected in a sense, and we're maybe thinking about other things and whatever. But if we more present we can be, and we can kind of like be intentional as well, like living intentionally. So focus on the good things and being mindful of like what I can be grateful for right now. Like all these types of things, they do add up, and they create your overall mental state and well-being.
Yeah, I'm glad you added that in and having like the gratitude too, because yeah, and I talk about moms being on autopilot a lot, like, right? Like we have so much to do and get done, and it's so easy to get disconnected from just the present moment and like connecting with our child. And like, even just they've shown, even just making eye contact actually helps your child co-regulate. So your nervous system has the power to calm their nervous system. And so eye contact, because we've got those mirror neurons in our brains where they can, that's kind of like where empathy comes from, where they can feel what we feel. So that's why it's so powerful for parents to become emotionally regulated, because if we're in a calmer state, it'll naturally like just make the eye contact, maybe touch. Every teenager doesn't always like to be touched, but right, like even just a simple hand on the shoulder, rub on the back, right? That's calming their nervous system too. So kind of just, I love that you did bring up the idea of presence, because that's where you get those little micro moments of connection and that co-regulation.
Definitely. I like how you mentioned co-regulation, because that's such a powerful concept to actually realize, because your state can affect other people around you, right? And that's also why it's kind of important to create this positive perimeter within yourself, because there's a lot of negativity sometimes, and be a light, not a shadow. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, I know, I've lived this, because so I mentioned I have four teenagers. I have two boys and two girls, and one of my daughters is like just one of those real go 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 type A. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. She's just a go getter, and I love that about her. It's an amazing quality. She just has so much energy. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like I'm trying to wind down for the day. I'm trying to relax. And I can hear her over there typing, like, when you can hear somebody typing so fast and she's like, and I'm like, oh, I even said the other day, I said, honey, your typing is stressing me out. Because she was just like ramping up, and she's like, Mom, I'm a night person. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do, right? And so, but just like the awareness that like how we are in a room, like we might not even be saying something, but like we're giving off energy, like, and we can feel other people's energy, and it's contagious. And so just like having that awareness.
Yeah. I feel like why it's so important to take care of your health as well. Like along the lines of the show, it's like it's so much easier to feel well when you're healthy, in a sense. Like
Yeah.
it's you want to kind of stack the conditions in your favor, so it makes it very difficult for you to feel bad. Like I feel like it's a reverse for a lot of people, unfortunately.
That's like, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to that for sure. Yeah, and I always kind of go back to, I talk about modifiable lifestyle factors, so like diet, sleep, exercise, stress management. But then there's the ones I've added on, which is technology management / digital well-being, and then kind of social management. And so for teenagers, and it applies to everybody, but like being aware of the social people that who are you connected to, making sure we're having boundaries. Like if we have these like toxic friends in our lives, we're not going to be feeling really well. We're going to be feeling drained or feeling stressed or whatever. And so like creating boundaries, and that comes back to what you said earlier about like values and decision making. It's easy to decide who to surround yourself with if you're very clear on what is acceptable behavior from others and what is not. And having your boundaries and like knowing that, okay, this is my backyard. This other person who keeps trying to come in my backyard, that's not their space. They need to stay in their own side of the fence, right?
Yeah. And like if you want to attract those type of people, you first have to become it, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to kind of take down these habits ourselves. So we have to be a light, as you mentioned a few times, and you're going to kind of draw people to you that are more attracted to that. And relationships may adjust, they change, and that's all good. It's all part of the process.
Yeah, yeah. I like that, because that's an expression I use as well. Like, because a lot of the teenagers that I work with, it's a very extremely common, like it's not like clinical social anxiety, but just in general, teenagers feel worried or anxious about their friends and about their social circles. And one day I have a best friend, and the next minute they talk behind my back. And what do I do about that? Right? It's like this constant issue. And so I always say, in order to have a friend, you have to be a friend. right? And that kind of like goes back to what you were saying. It's like, well, you're waiting for them to call you, but you could call them. You could text them, you could message them. Like you're waiting
Yeah.
for them to ask you to go do something. Well, why do you have to wait? Why don't you go first?
Yeah. I feel like it's so important to like want to see people win in a sense. Like we want to be like we have these big goals and success, and we're just like some people are just so jealous of it. But what we don't understand is like that level of energy will never help you reach that. So you have to celebrate the thing that you want, celebrate
Yeah.
it in other people, even if you don't have it. And it actually, ironically, makes you much more attractive to it. So you actually make the decisions that are on track with it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I have so many examples of that. Um, and we're all guilty, like, right? Like I've caught myself so many times being, jealous of somebody or envious or whatever the thing is, and I'm like, no, and that's where I stop myself, right? Like as soon as I feel myself starting to go into that energy, I'm like, no, that's not what I want, right? And to redirect and backtrack, but no, I have actually a great example of a positive version of this. So I have a friend who I am celebrating like to the moon because she just did her first TED Talk and they filmed it. And I mean, just the fact that she got a TED Talk is amazing. The fact that she said it's a little too premature to say for sure, but she thinks she nailed it. She was like, oh my gosh, I got so many compliments after. And so it's about to go live. She hasn't gotten the link yet. But I am just celebrating her to the moon because I'm so just impressed with her ability. I mean, she literally, it took her like from start to end, like it's a 10-month process. For 4 months, she practiced 2.5 hours every single day. I'm like the amount of like energy and commitment and the research and everything to write the speech, like just so much goes into it. So yeah, my dream I would love to have a TED Talk. And so I have to just, I'm not jealous of her. I'm just not there yet. That's all it is. Like I'll get there. It's just, it's a matter of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, talk about like positive energy flow, right? It's like, it helps you build momentum in a sense because you're not creating these endless blocks within yourself to actually reach your goals.
Yeah, yeah. And to use people kind of, there's an expression that I got from my mentor about you. If you're going to compare, it's just going to like self to self. So, am I better than I was yesterday, last week, last year, right? Like, just the
Yeah.
only time you're comparing is yourself. And then when you are looking at others, you look to them for inspiration about what could be possible for me, like what is possible for them. And so, therefore, it's possible for me.
Yeah. Like having this growth orientation approach to life, right? Instead of like having this fix, it's like sometimes we see people and they're doing these great things, like, oh, that life is not for me, right? Well, the reality is for you, and it is a process, and nobody just got there. And you have to take it day by day, and we all are on our own journeys, and just kind of stay inspired. And as long as you keep moving forward, I just find you're gonna reach your destination at some point.
Yeah, yeah. It would be so easy for some people. I can see why, right? It kind of gets easy to get fixated or stuck in a certain, especially like with age, right? Like it's like, oh wow, this person achieved this. I mean, now these days, so many like even teenagers and young 20s are entrepreneurs and making millions. They have like YouTube or Instagram or whatever social media kind of, they're influencers and they're just like killing it. And then you have somebody who's 50 who's been like working every day really hard and they're like, oh my gosh, right? It'd be so easy to be like, how did that 20-year-old do that? And I'm that, right? And so it's like, whoa, that's not the right energy that you want. Like you have your own path and like you have your own way. And who knows, maybe you get whatever success you want, or maybe you already have success and you're just not recognizing it, right? Because not all success is created equal and we all have these definitions and it's not about a dollar amount. Maybe that 50-year-old has the great house and the family and the children and the dog and the, other forms of success, or maybe they have great health and they're like, well, I'm not even celebrating what I already have. So that would be like step one, celebrate what you already have. And also recognize that it's not about like how you are compared to others. It's how you are compared to yourself.
Yeah. It's always a process. Like what you appreciate appreciates as well, right? Like you're gonna get more of that thing. Like once you, because what also you focus on tends to expand, right? So
Yeah.
you focus on the good in your life. You're gonna look for ways to kind of multiply it. But if you do the opposite, you're just gonna stay down and it's kind of look for You're gonna turn every win into a loss in a sense.
Yeah, and so much of this, by the way, is happening, which I'm sure you're aware of, like in our subconscious brain, right? Like we don't even know that it's happening. That's why it's so important to do the work that we're talking about, like whether it's the coaching or the mindset work or that preparation work or the habits that you're mentioning earlier. Because then it's almost like our brain, it's like when your computer has things running in the background and you don't even know they're there, but it's doing something, right? It's like making sure that your systems are running what you want them to run. That computer program is running what you want it to run and not just some virus thing that's messing you up.
Absolutely. It's like the RAS, right? Kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, reticular activating system really kind of helps filter our reality in a sense. You calibrate it to what we want or what we focus on in a sense.
Yeah, and back kind of at the beginning of this conversation, you used the word homeostasis, and I didn't like reflect back on that, but I love that word because the idea is just that we always, it's like we have these thermostats and we might go up or down, but we always return back to kind of like what we have our thermostat programmed to or set to.
Yeah.
And so it's like the idea is that like, okay, well then let's set it at a different temperature. If you want to be a more positive person or a healthier person or whatever, all the things that we're talking about today, set it at 82 instead of 69, right? Set it at 90 degrees. And so like,
Yeah.
how do you set it at 90 degrees? And is it okay if you dip down? Yeah, but then you want to go back up to the 90 degrees that you had planned it to be.
Yeah, I love it. We all have a thermostat for like whatever it is. And like we kind of have this like paradigm that we operate out of, and we can kind of turn it up a little bit, right? And we can turn it down, but we're going to come back to this kind of this like our home state of being in a sense. It's like something that we're used to, something that we're familiar with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can raise that by raising our standards and raising our action. So like you kind of like have this new built-in habit, right? And you're gonna maybe take some losses and whatnot, but hey, you recover. I just talked about being resilient and kind of raise that and just get better every day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then also just the belief, kind of just the belief that you're worthy of having positive feelings, you're worthy of success, you're worthy of having this amazing life, and no one needs to settle for average or below average. I think everybody should be shooting for 90 or above.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like the power of belief is incredible, and just coming to grace versions of us. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you've gotten me thinking a lot. I like a lot of the phrases that you use in the language. So yeah, I might have to borrow some of your ideas.
Definitely, yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate it. Same
yeah,
here.
yeah.
All right, Laura, this has been amazing. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insights, your energy with us. It's been really inspiring as well because this information is so important. And so once we start to cultivate some of these habits within ourselves and just take it on and just kind of contemplate it and say, like, how can I fit this in my life, right? How can I apply it? How can I get better? And just take this next step. Right? It's not about being perfect. It's about progress every single day. And just kind of enjoy the process, enjoy your life. And that's how you get better. And it's just kind of creates this virtuous circle in a sense, and that's how you be a life for other people. So I appreciate you so much, Laura.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So if people want to get connected with you and your work, where can we find you?
Yeah, so the easiest thing is to go to my website, which is positivelyhealthycoaching.com. And there I have a blog, I have links to my social media, I have you can set an appointment with me, just a free consultation to decide if you need coaching for your child or for yourself. And I also have a button on there for people who are looking for a speaker, especially for schools. If they're looking for some type of a speaker for teens or parents, then I'd be happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.